Well, hi, everybody. It's Odds on Premier League here on Oddspedia. It's me, Tom
Hello,
Rennie, would
Tom.
seem on my own temporarily, and alongside me to host the program, Edu's back. Hi, Edu.
Hello, Tom. You want me to say the tips for you? We just exchange roles here.
Yes,
Hello.
as long as I get your
Well,
fee as well, I'm happy.
I'm here with you, Tom. Let's enjoy this match day 31. Of course, we have the FLF Cup Final. Man City, Arsenal. Arsenal are going to win the Premier League. Arsenal are alive in the Champions League. Man City are out. You think Man City could win the final, Tom?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be a very, very close final. And considering what happened in the Champions League a couple of days ago and the fact the Premier League doesn't look on, I think this game has taken on a massive importance for Man City.
Well, let's analyze everything, especially this game, in a minute. Of course, let me know your comments. Let me know your tips for this game. Let's go on now with the show. It's now all about the cups for Man City after $1 trillion dollars invested, Tom. They are out of the Premier League race. They are out of the Champions League, smashed by Real Madrid. And now they have the FLF Cup final on Sunday against Arsenal. They have the FA Cup against Liverpool. And we saw once again, it's true that Bernardo Silva was sent off, but a poor Man City in defensive aspects. It was pretty easy to attack them. They were leaking. They were not in control of the midfield for a long spell in that game. And for Arsenal, still doing the same, still doing the job. They are going to walk with the Premier League title. They are likely to be in the Champions League semifinals, so their seasons look opposite. And of course, with these preliminary facts, Arsenal are favorites for this game. It's 2.2, 2.4 for Arsenal to win the game, 3.2 for Man City.
Yeah, and I think on current form, it's obvious and evident why Arsenal are favourites. They've won 4 of the last 5, whereas City have 1 win in that run. That was against Newcastle in the Cup. They couldn't beat West Ham. They were awful in the first leg against Real Madrid. They struggled to a draw against Nottingham Forest in the league at home previously. So the form is poor right now for Manchester City. And it is tough to put your finger on why, because going into the Forest game a few weeks ago, it seemed like they were turning things around. They were getting the motor running. And then Guardiola did a kind of Guardiola thing and sort of changed everything again in that, we saw Reinders at the start of the season playing a lot. Then he got dropped for a long time. Then suddenly he's back. We saw Ryan 𝐿𝐿𝐿 and Reinders having a great relationship. Then 𝐿𝐿𝐿 got dropped. Then suddenly 𝐿𝐿𝐿 is back. Rodri was missing for a long stage this season. 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 was covering admirably. Rodri has returned and, he's been better and better and better, but he still hasn't been maybe as good as his peak. And so why did you kind of build the team around 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 just to bin him off? Mark Gay has come in. I think he's a fabulous defender. I think that kind of makes sense to have him and Ruben Diaz together, but it is still a new partnership. And even Ryan 𝐿𝐿𝐿 got bombed out for months for O'Reilly at fullback. And now Ryan 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿's playing. So he seems to have made a lot of little tweaks and things, Guardiola, and they haven't worked. And they've led to a bunch of poor defeats. Of course, it's an embarrassment of riches that he has, but he has not played the hand well. And then when you look at star performers from previous great seasons, Erling Haaland's dried up in recent weeks compared to his usual standards. Phil Foden's had a totally anonymous season. And he has been pivotal at points in recent history when City have been imperious. And also, you think about someone like Jeremy Doku and Savinho and these guys, they're not contributing enough. When you think about people like Raheem Sterling or Riyad Mahrez in not too, the not too distant past, they've been pivotal players. And those secondary characters have not contributed. Bernardo Silva has not contributed in a positive manner. And there's a few issues there. So the team isn't firing. The team doesn't make sense at the moment. The team look short of confidence. And that Real Madrid loss would have been very damaging for a lot of these players because they were really poor in the first leg. And then after Bernardo Silva sending off in the second, it was totally over. And there was that sort of petulant ending from everyone involved, including Guardiola wearing a divorced dad shirt. And just there's obviously a lot wrong there now, which really ramps up the pressure on this EFL Cup. If they were to win the EFL Cup and FA Cup this season, would it be a success if they finish second? Yeah, probably, actually. Probably not compared to the money spent. But if that was anyone else's season, they'd be like, yeah, okay, it was a bad year, but we still won 2. And that's what separates the mega clubs from the rest of us. In that, even in bad years, they still win things. Even during Man United's worst years, they've won the Europa League or Carabao Cup, right? So that puts a huge emphasis on this game. The trouble is, and I think we've seen that a lot in the Champions League this week, a lot of the Premier League teams have forgot how to play football. Because what they do now is play brutalist Arsenal football, because the team at the top of the table are the ones that often set the mood and define the tone. And when it comes to brutalism, no one's better than Arsenal, as Bayer Leverkusen found out, as Everton found out, even as Mansfield Town found out, despite the fact Arsenal had a couple of 16-year-olds in the team. It was still a pretty brutal performance. They're incredibly efficient. They take every advantage, every little inch, including Gabriel, who I'm sure will dive his heart out at every opportunity in this game and get away with it as per usual. But they're incredibly solid, incredibly effective, and they just know how to win. They're a real machine at this moment in time, Arsenal. And if they're to win this game and to win the title, they will do it ugly. There might be moments and flashes, like the strike for 𝗵𝗵𝗄 and the second for 𝗵𝗲𝗿 against Everton. But in general, across the season, it's been set. That's what they do. So I think this game's going to be really close, actually. A typical cup final in many ways. I think it'll be similar to the Liverpool-Chelsea FA Cup and Carabao Cup finals we saw a couple of years ago. So don't expect a lot of goals. Arsenal to win anything at 2.44 is pretty insane for this season. So I would certainly lump on that. You add that to under 3.5 goals in the match. On its own, that's 1.33. Put that with an Arsenal win, doubles your money. It has been coming in last couple of games. It hasn't been coming in as much of this season as it should have done, but it has in 3 of the last 5. So as ever, Arsenal win to 0. A really surprising 4, and it's a cup final. So I expect this to go really, really close with very few goals. Arsenal extra time victory was 11, which I think it's a big punt, I know, but you wouldn't be surprised to see this game go the distance. But I think Arsenal shade it.
Guardiola probably still complaining, still moaning after being kicked out 3 years in a row by Real Madrid of the Champions League. Man Spaghetti City are not doing so well. They are affected by oil prices, might be the issue, of course, but there is for Etihad. Indeed, the Masters will prevail against the Student City wins. 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲, anytime goal scorer. Man Spaghetti also sees going this one to extra time draw and under 2.5 goals. As we say, the Arsenal are favorites for this game, and we can check our smart bet tool for this game and what we have here. Let's check it out right now. We have Arsenal or Man City. Okay, this is very helpful. So not a draw, and we see goals. The AI thinks we are going to see goals in this game, over 2.5 goals. Well, great game. Sunday, final FA Cup, Arsenal, Man City. Now, let's switch into the Premier League. Remember, by the way, Arsenal already played their game against Wolves in this match day, and starts on Friday, and we have a good game, actually. Bournemouth, Man United. Man United, after beating Aston Villa, crucial win in their fight for the Champions League. Casemiro, happy days, happy last days for Casemiro, scoring one of the goals. And Bournemouth draw against Burnley, as expected. Tom, 4 consecutive draws. Their last defeat was the 3rd of January. It's impressive, actually.
Yeah, and that was against Arsenal. And before that was the loss against Brentford, December 27th. So it's 2 losses since then, which is incredible. A lot of draws. But look, they were in a bit of trouble at the time they lost to Arsenal at the start of January. And they moved away because they've found a way to be very difficult to beat, which is kind of the cornerstone of what 𝗀𝗀𝗍 Iraola has done during his time at Bournemouth. Whether that will continue is going to be an interesting conversation over the next few weeks. I mean, the team is so much better than the sum of its parts, and every single player has improved under this manager. From Hill at centre-half, Christie in midfield, Scott in midfield. Huge breakout season from 𝗀𝗍𝗍, though, of course, bought from a sister club, and we thought he was going to be quite good. The form of Tavernier, like loads of guys have really just had seasons that no one saw coming before they found themselves working with 𝗀𝗀𝗍 Iraola. So incredible campaign in lots of ways. I don't see it ending in European qualification. Again, lots still to shake out. 8th might get you there. They're currently sitting in 10th, a few points off the pace, but I don't think they win enough games to get over the line. 4 draws in a row, and the majority draws in this unbeaten run. So first and foremost, absolutely screams draw here. 3.9. Snap your hand off for that. Because Bournemouth, I think, don't know how to win. They certainly know how to not get beat. They've proved that a lot. However, they don't know how to win. Man United, on the other hand, under Michael Carrick, that's the main thing they have done. Beyond Newcastle, they have won or got a result in every single game under Michael Carrick. You mentioned Casemiro has been in fine form, but so has Fernandes, so has 𝗵𝗏𝗏, so has 𝐻𝐿𝐴, so has Maguire, so has Lamans. So many of these players who had not performed under the fraud Ruben Amorim are giving their all for Michael Carrick, playing in a position they understand, playing in a team they understand, playing in a style they understand, with the goal to aim for as well. And for them to have shot up to third, and look, they won't overtake Man City, but it's worth noting they're 7 points behind City, which is a real achievement. They're now 3 points above Villa, having beaten them last week as we predicted, in the way that we predicted as well, by both teams scoring and United adding one late as well. So it went perfect for us last week, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this go perfect for Man United again. So draw is the top tip. If not, you look at the Man United win, which is a pretty generous 2.21. I think it'll be a tight game. Look at recent results: 1-0, 2-1, 2-1, 1-1. If United win it, it'll be close. United by exactly one goal is 4. And the star man right now is Bruno Fernandes. To score or assist, Bruno, 1.73. Not great, but you add that to something else, be the Man United win, be it a draw, what have you, that doubles your money.
The angry guy, Bruno Fernandes, David and 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜 are throwing Benjamin Sesko, 9 goals scored by the Slovenian in his Premier League debut, same as 𝗵𝗏𝗏𝗏. Okay, Man United to win and both teams to score is 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐧𝐴𝐴𝐵. Jeremy, hello Jeremy, going for United double chance also and both teams to score. So both teams to score could be a good option. Good game, actually, for a Friday evening. Then on Saturday, we have Brighton, Liverpool. Looks like Liverpool are happier playing in Europe than in England. They are in the Champions League quarterfinals. Now they have to face PSG. It's going to be tougher than Galatasaray, that's for sure, because in the Premier League or in England, they've been bad, actually, against Tottenham. A lot of missed chances and a late goal conceded, defeat in the last trip against Wolves. And Brighton beat Sunderland, is 3 wins in 4. So shouldn't be easy for Liverpool, and being alive in the Champions League drain efforts and energy, Tom. So they might get points right now in the Premier League if they want to focus also in Europe to qualify for the Champions League next.
It's a tough one for Liverpool, this, because it's not guaranteed to be 5 at the moment. The top 5 qualify for next season's Champions League. Liverpool as a club simply must be in the Champions League financially, and so getting above Aston Villa is critical. And as you look at it now, with a 6-point gap to United, or 5 points to United actually, would anyone bet them to finish above Man United in the league this season? I wouldn't. So it means it's a kind of Villa, Chelsea, Liverpool wrestle for top 4, top 5. So they can't afford to rest players and rotate too much, Liverpool, from the team that were very good against Galatasaray on Wednesday, you've got to say. I think Mo Salah struggled again. I know he scored a goal, but I didn't see him contribute a great deal in the game. I think 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐳 is struggling. I think that if they had more resource in the front line, which is a weird thing to say considering the summer, I think he might have been out of the team a lot. I think the drop-off from Luis Diaz to him this season has been quite significant for Liverpool at times. I think not having good possibilities off the bench this season has been an issue for Liverpool as well. And I think even though they had that massive spend in the summer, they actually found a way to make the squad worse. And beyond 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐳 and cautiously 𝗵𝗏𝗏𝗏, I would say that no one has improved the Liverpool team from the summer splash of signings. And that's been an issue. So going to be fascinating to see how they play this, because I think that they've kind of looked a bit better away from home than at home in recent weeks, thinking about the win against Wolves in the Cup, thinking about the win against Sunderland compared to Tottenham or even West Ham when they scored 5, but weren't particularly impressive. They look a bit more combative away from home. Individual players not in great runs of form. I wonder if Robertson starts or if he's fit. 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐳 gets the nod. That's going to be really interesting. But look, every Liverpool game right now is tight. Beyond the Champions League game, they're all tight. They're all in the balance, and they're all decided by the one goal, and that will lead me to my tip in a minute. And in terms of Brighton, just a complete non-entity of a season, really. Not bad, not good, totally bang average. 30 games, 10, 10 and 10, wins, losses, draws. Are they tough to beat? Yeah. Are they particularly entertaining? No. Have they contributed this season? Not really. Are they going to finish top 8? No. Any chance of relegation? No. And I think you can see that when you speak to Brighton fans and you hear them a bit in the crowd as well, and you listen to people that go see them a lot. Like, what was this? What's the point of Brighton? And that's a conversation they need to have with themselves. Like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful here. Like, when you're a mid-level club, you can make a play for the top, like in recent times Tottenham have, and Villa have, and West Ham give it a whirl, and a few other teams have. Or do you sort of sell your players and keep middling on forever and just sort of take up space in the Premier League until you eventually get relegated? That's where Brighton are. They've got to decide what they want to be. And I think this summer is going to be a really interesting one for manager, for players. And there's not a great deal of high-level talent in this squad that you could sell like previous years too. So that's going to be interesting. Recent run, 3 wins in 4. They shouldn't have lost against Arsenal. At the very least, they pushed them really tight. So screams draw again at 3.75. A couple of scorelines that are obvious here, 0-0 or 1-1. Both have had recent very tight games. That comes in at 5. Don't see many goals. Under 2.5 is 2.2. And then if you pick a winner, it's going to be a very tight victory. For example, Brighton beat Sunderland 1-0, or Liverpool losing to Wolves 2-1. It is going to be tight. Liverpool win by exactly 1 is 4. Brighton win by exactly 1 is 5. So pick a 2-1 either way, frankly.
Liverpool to win and over 1.5 for 𝐬𝐵𝗀𝐿 draw possible. Salah injured, by the way, Man Spaghetti is telling us. And the last comment, both teams to score. Well, Tom, maybe your speech about Brighton could be said also about Fulham, even if they were in the championship recently. And next game, Fulham-Burnley. This is quite uninteresting, with Fulham absolutely safe, mid-table, out of the FA Cup. Drew against Forest. Burnley, another draw against Bournemouth. Perhaps both drew their last games, goalless draw. Also, perhaps here, an under, Tom, an interesting game.
Oh, games you don't want to watch. Number 1, Fulham against Burnley. It's the only game in the UK it's not on TV this weekend. Every single other game is on TV. There's contractual reasons for that and what have you, but also it's the only one that wasn't picked for any slot anywhere. Because who on earth would want to watch it? Look, I'll keep it brief. I think Fulham are not going to qualify for European football this season. I think their entire season was decimated by the team selection and loss against Southampton in the FA Cup a couple of weeks ago. Look, commendable draw against Forest last week. But a big future coming up for them. Like, what's Marco Silva going to do? What are these players going to do? Does 𝗀𝗵𝗿𝗲 want to see out his career at Fulham? Is Raul Jimenez going to be able to go again? Is there a move for someone like Anthony Robinson, which has been in the works, it would seem, for quite some time? So loads of things to consider for Fulham. But in general, their form at home this season has been pretty good. In general, it has been a positive season for Fulham. 8 victories at home in the campaign puts them in the top 10 for home victories. So you've got to back them for a home victory here. And look, in terms of Burnley, I think there's every chance that they finish below Wolverhampton Wanderers and finish bottom of the Premier League this season, which would be just an unbelievable failure for Scott Parker in this group. But they aren't a Premier League squad. And we've said this every single week, and it's been proved right every single week. Do they have some fight in them? Yeah, we saw it against Bournemouth. We saw it against Chelsea, where they maybe could have won that game. We even saw it in that shocking 3-4 against Brentford. It's a team that are relatively well coached, but it's quality. It's quality, and they simply do not have it. And I will not back them to win here. So Fulham win at 1.61. Yeah, you got to take that. I'm struggling to see a Burnley goal scorer. They don't score a great deal of goals. Haven't scored in the last 2. So Fulham win to 0 is 2.5. And take a nice group bet here that doubles your money. 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 to Fulham. That's 2-1. That's all right. But I don't have much to say on this one, really.
Let's move on to the next one here. Fulham both teams to score. No, Jeremy is telling us also some other going for Fulham to win, 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐻. Next one is Everton Chelsea. Here, I guess we should have a conversation about Chelsea. It was pitiful, the tie against PSG, so far away from European royalty at the moment after all the money spent with a new manager. With the previous one, after winning the Club World Cup, sacked, even giving a little piece of paper to Garnacho when the game was 3-0. Oh my God, I'm sure Garnacho paid a lot of attention to the piece of paper. And in the Premier League, they are out of the Champions League at the moment. Is 1 win in the last 5. So this game against Everton is crucial for Chelsea.
It is, and it's crucial for 𝐸𝐵𝐵 future, I think, because, look, I think he's done all right. In the whole story of his very brief time in charge, I think he's done all right. But this last week has been pretty catastrophic. The away leg at Paris Saint-Germain was a poorly handled game. The home leg was sort of irrelevant. Yeah, they lost 3-0, but in the end, they were out the type in the first leg, so who really cares about the second? You obviously would have liked to have done better, but that's the way it breaks. Look, I think that Chelsea have got one or two superstars, and I think they'll be considering their future. Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer, maybe 𝐿𝐭𝐤𝐬 you could throw into that group, 𝐼𝐭𝐚𝐲. These are guys that could play for any team in the world. Are they going to waste the best years of their career at Chelsea? That's what they'll be thinking. Maybe it won't be a waste, I don't know, but that'll be the conversation this summer. I'd be surprised if someone like Enzo Fernandez stayed on at Chelsea moving forward if they weren't in the Champions League. And the reason for it is because they're a player trading business, and that has led to some really good players coming in. But that also has led to a lack of strategic direction in what the team actually needs. And defensively, week in, week out, it proves to be a problem. Is it 𝗏𝗏𝗏? Is it 𝐶𝐴LLBA? Is it, obviously, Colwell's been out all season, which is a huge problem. Fofana's been back, but not particularly good. Like, the defense has let them down time and time and time again. They do not have a good enough defense to qualify to play at the top level, to maybe qualify for the Champions League. Will that be addressed this summer by strategic purchases? No, it won't. They've probably got about 17 transfers lined up already because that's how the business works. And maybe some seasons they'll land on a really good team, and other seasons they will stumble and not achieve anything. And I think this is going to be the latter rather than the former this season for Chelsea. So fascinated to see how they get on. I do think 𝐸𝐵𝐵𝐵 is a good coach. Obviously, Chelsea is too big for him, but maybe he will grow into the role. To grow into the role, they've got to be playing Champions League football next season, which means they've got to win games like this. And with Everton, tricky this season. At home, they've been pretty poor. 5 victories at home in the new stadium is not particularly great. However, we have seen teams move to new stadiums and struggle a lot worse than this over the years. David Moyes, I wouldn't say a miracle season, like people are once again saying it's a miracle season, but I do think incredible that they've been nowhere near relegation trouble all season when you consider 𝗛𝗏𝗏𝗏 can't run, Timo Rebenham's not particularly good, 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 missed 3 months, Jack Grealish out for the season, Beto and Barry not particularly strong goal scorers. Beyond Jordan Pickford and 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏, are there many others that I would say have been great for Everton? Not really. You could maybe say Ndiaye at a push, but again, he's found a very consistent, very stable way of playing. Do the crowd love it in terms of entertainment value? No, that's not the David Moyes way. But they're very effective, and they've done incredibly well to be nowhere near a relegation battle that's going to be a pretty high points tally this season. So I think it's going to be tight, this one. I think it's going to be a very tight weekend. And Everton at 3.65, considering Chelsea played on midweek, I think is worth a little punt at 3.65. I think Chelsea, if they win, they'll win to 0 because of Everton's aforementioned really poor goal-scoring record. That's a really generous 3.75. I'm spreading my bets around here. Don't discount the draw. If you take the draw, 0-0 or 1-1, low scoring, that comes in at 5 for 0-0 or 1-1, but certainly under in this game. Under 2.5 is 2. Add that to your preferred winner. I think you make some money here. It's like kind of unwatchable, but I think valuable game.
Well, these two teams are a nightmare from the betting perspective this season, so it's really, really tough to predict. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 going for a draw, Jeremy for Chelsea, both teams to score. Chelsea have a transfer ban. Mom Spaghetti is telling you, Mike, Chelsea will beat Everton.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Like Man City, no? Breaking every single rule and still there. This is power. This is money, guys. Saturday, last game. Leeds Brentford. Here, I guess also we shouldn't expect many goals. Leeds 3 points away from West Ham United. Drew with Palace, as you predicted. Also an under. No wins in the last 5 games. 4 of them, by the way, under 2.5 goals. And Brentford drew with Wolves, with Bournemouth. Tom, screams draw?
Yeah, I wonder what I'll do here. It screams draw from the rooftops, this one, frankly. And look, Leeds have been incredible this season in terms of not getting beat. That's the reason they're not in the relegation zone right now. I think they're the worst team of the 4. As things stand, Nottingham Forest, Spurs and Leeds. But they are 3 points clear of West Ham currently with a decent chunk to go. Again, worth flagging, it's West Ham Leeds on the final day. So if West Ham are within 2 points of Leeds on that final day, if they're the team in the bottom 3, they could beat them and stay in the league. So that is a narrative that we are not far away from, which would be spectacular from a neutral entertainment perspective in a season which has been lacking in a great deal of entertainment. I think that Leeds are a fascinating team. They do not score many goals. Calvert-Lewin missed a penalty last week. They are built to not get beat, and people like Strike and 𝗵𝗲𝗄 and Rodon and 𝗵𝗲𝗄 and Stark have really overperformed the metrics we expected from them this season. So incredibly commendable. But they're still in the mix. This time last season, everyone in the relegation battle would be safe. All of them. All four would be safe because Ipswich, I think, went down third bottom on 28 points. West Ham currently have 29. So this would already be a done deal for Leeds if they were in the league last season. So they can feel a bit hard done by, that they've got to scrap and fight this hard, and they can feel a bit hard done by they're still in the battle. But they have a tremendous record at home under the lights, and they very rarely get beat at Ellen Road in this scenario. And they've picked up some really huge wins. Everyone at Leeds knows what a huge game this is, and they're playing a very beatable opponent. So this is the chance. This is the moment. Victory for Leeds the weekend and a loss for West Ham makes it 6 points with 7 rounds to go. I think that might be enough. I think that might be enough with a runner draw to the end to get there. So look, home form has been good in general, but they do find it tough to win. In terms of Brentford, they have been the story of the season in many ways, in that no one saw this coming, least of all me. I thought them and Everton would struggle. They haven't. And I think tremendous credit to Keith Andrews. They've got a very set way of playing. You know what they do. Over the top to 𝐻𝐿𝐴. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 either scores or wins a penalty. If not, they get a long throw and 𝐿𝐴 bungs it in. That's basically the whole game. And no one's found a way to stop it this season, in this pretty brutal Premier League season. And that has led Brentford to a really exciting run in lots of ways to maybe qualify for European football. Brentford in Europe will be a tremendous achievement. Currently just 3 points behind Chelsea when you consider squad value and player sales in the summer. It makes it even more spectacular what they've been able to do. Recent form, very much like Leeds, tough to beat, finding it tough to win. Probably should have lost against West Ham, probably should have lost against Wolves in many ways, but found ways to get a draw. Look, screams draw, take that at 3.56. 0-0 or 1-1 at 4.5 for the reasons I've mentioned. If you are going to pick a winner, I think it matters more to Leeds, and they're the home team. Leeds by exactly 1 goal is 4.33. When Leeds have won this season, it's been tight. A decent chunk of 1-0s and a couple of 2-1s in the campaign. So Leeds by exactly 1 is 4.33. And don't be stunned here to see the first half being an utterly unwatchable affair, and then 1 wins in the second half. So draw first half and Leeds is 6, draw and Brentford is 6.5. Look out for this one this weekend. Huge ramifications for the relegation battle and for potential European qualification. It's actually a really important game, maybe the most important of the weekend in the league.
All right. Some people here are very happy for 𝐿𝐴𝐵. David, Bulgaria will have a Seleção player. He's being called by Mr. Carlo Ancelotti for this international break. Man Spaghetti, how much? Thiago top scorer. That would be interesting. Actually, let me check it out, or David, and we will tell you. But his season has been impressive. Now 3 goals short from Erling Haaland, 19, 𝐿𝐴𝐵, 22. Haaland, but it looks like the Norwegian is already looking at the World Cup right now. You can see right now the top scorer of the Premier League. Haaland looked really bad in the tie with Real Madrid. And for Sunday, Super Sunday, with the Arsenal Man City at Wembley, and derby, Tyneside derby, Newcastle Sunderland. Remember, in the reverse fixture in the Stadium of Light, Sunderland won it, so Newcastle now want revenge, especially after getting humiliated by Barcelona in the second half at Camp Nou. The campaign is over, kind of mediocre in the Premier League, only 42 points, 7 points away from Liverpool. So, Tom, they really need to win here to get a boost, and Sunderland, their season is over. I think they are pretty relaxed after meeting the objective, the goal of the season.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Newcastle, this next 7 games is going to be critical for the future of Eddie Howe and several of these players as well. The Paris Saint-Germain, the Barcelona game was humbling in lots of ways, but look, they went to Barcelona and decided to go toe-to-toe, right? Fair enough. That was clearly the game plan, and a couple of times it did work, and they were very much in that game going into the second half. Second half goes the way it goes because Barca are better than Newcastle. But I think in general it was pretty commendable. I think that there there were positives from it, including the performance of Hall and a good moment for 𝐿anga and one or two other players as well. But look, the league season has been incredibly disappointing, and to not have Bruno 𝐵𝐸𝐺 for this period of time is something that very few teams could cover from, and they have struggled to recover from their best player being missing for such a long time. And that leads this to be really interesting. Could they win 7 in a row and qualify for Europa League, maybe 5th in the Champions League spaces? Yeah, I can see it. They've done it before. But it's a game like this, they simply have to win. And of course, it was an embarrassment to them, the performance, if not result, against Sunderland earlier in the campaign. So one or two players on form, Gordon, Barnes, 𝐿anga in the front line, I think have been good. Hall, I've mentioned. They haven't ever really covered from the Isak loss. 𝗲𝗏 and 𝗲𝗏𝗏 in the end are going to be flops, I think, if you look at the season as a whole. And I would be surprised if either were there next season for Newcastle. And yeah, what happens in the next few weeks is going to be crucial for them. They'll play high energy. They will look to batter Sunderland, and they'll look to score as many goals in a frenetic game as possible in a classic derby fashion. It might be the last big game that St James's gets to enjoy this season, considering the way the campaign has gone. And look, in terms of Sunderland, look, they've shut up shop for the season. The injury of recent times to 𝐵𝗏𝗏 has slowed them down. One wonders if he's able to go back to that elite level form we saw for the first 25 weeks of the season. I think a lot of players massively overperformed their abilities this campaign, and I mean that commendably. People like Diarra and Talby and Alderete and Ballard. These are really good players in lots of ways, but are they top players? Are they top 10 Premier League players? Not sure I'd spend my money on this group. And so I think you're seeing players kind of revert to their normal level, and that was evident in the loss against Brighton. I thought they were very poor in that game. They were very poor in the game against Leeds, frankly, which they won 1-0 a couple of weeks ago in a game where I think they had 3 shots or something like that and only scored. And only they won the game because Leeds were so poor in front of goal as they usually are. So look, it's a derby. I think it's going to be really tight. And I think that I would take the Newcastle win at 1.73 because there's so much more riding on it for Newcastle. Plus, I know they were in Barcelona on Wednesday, but there'll be a revenge mission feel to this. Both teams will score in this game. Screams it. Newcastle win and both teams to score 3.75. Defenses have not been particularly strong in recent weeks beyond the Chelsea win. That's the one clean sheet in 5. And I mentioned Leeds already for Sunderland. That was a clean sheet that was more about Leeds than it was about Sunderland. So Newcastle win both teams to score. Draw both teams to score is 5. And I haven't got the odds for this because it wasn't available when I looked earlier. But red card in this match. It's a derby. It's going to be ferocious. It's going to be fierce. Dan Burn was sent off in the game at the Stadium of Light. Expect another one here. But I'd expect it to be a 1-1 draw with Newcastle and Sunderland both down to 10 by the end.
Must win for Newcastle, as we said before. Newcastle to try to save some faces. 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐿, Gordon, Harvey Barnes to score. This could be a hot derby, Man Spaghetti is telling us. Indeed, it is. And Newcastle, after the humiliation in Barcelona, they need indeed a good result in front of their crowd. And another important game, Tom, I could say, I don't want to disagree with you, even more important than Leeds Brentford, is Aston Villa West Ham, because Aston Villa are dropping in the table, now only 3 points away from Chelsea, from losing their Champions League spot, also alive in the Europa League. Remember, playing tonight, Thursday, against Lille, and in the Premier League, it's only 1 win in the last 7. They are facing West Ham, and West Ham are eager to get some points here after the draw with Man City. They beat Fulham in the last away game, Tom, and indeed, West Ham desperate also to get some points to get out of the relegation.
Yeah, West Ham in a run of fixtures now, starting with this one, that I think 4 are winnable, all 4. And if they were to win all 4, they'll stay in the Premier League this season. If they draw 2 and win 2, there's every chance they'll stay in the Premier League this season. If they lose these games, then there's absolutely no chance. We're there now with West Ham. In that last run of games, they've got Arsenal and Newcastle in the last 3 or 4. So this is it. And there's Everton and there's Wolves and what have you to come. So, look, are they favourites to win this game? No. But on current form, they've got every chance. The trouble with West Ham is they're doing a bit like Bournemouth and Leeds and 1 or 2 others. They have now found a way to be tough to beat, which they were not for the opening 15 weeks of the season. That's why they are where they are, because Graham Potter is an incompetent boob moron. Nuno is able to turn it around after a really difficult 10 weeks where I think he really struggled. And I think Paco Gémez coming in the coaching staff has obviously made a really big difference for West Ham since his arrival. That there's been a verve around them that was missing. But they've got to convert performance and draws into win. Should have beat Man United. Should have beat Bournemouth. Did not do so. Should have, I think maybe the Man City one was fair, but should have beaten Brentford before that. So, look, I think that I'm struggling here because I kind of want to tip West Ham to win. I'm right on the edge of tipping West Ham to win. I think that Mavropanos, Disasi, 𝗛𝗲𝗏𝗀 playing well. 𝐿𝐿𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜 Fernandez, really good partnership. I think that Somerville is out for this one, which is a shame, but Pablo coming back in has given them a partnership between him and Tati Castellanos, which was missing, and Jarrod Bowen. You know, all the talk about Morgan Rogers this season, which has been right. Jarrod Bowen scored the same amount of goals as Morgan Rogers this campaign, and he's been playing in a significantly worse team and captaining them as well. So again, Bowen continues to be an undervalued property in the league in many ways. So look, West Ham are playing well, tough to score on beyond the Liverpool game and every chance of winning it. In terms of Villa, they've overperformed this season and it does sort of feel like the wheels have come off a bit. The Man United loss was catastrophic. The Chelsea game was really poor. I think they're playing too many games. They haven't got a particularly deep squad. No one's in amazing form. The loss of Kamara in midfield has been bad for them. Kamara and Onana and Tielemans was such a good trio this season. Only Onana currently fit. That's an issue. And Ollie Watkins not been particularly spectacular this season. Look, they remain tough to beat at home across the campaign, despite some recent poor performances. 4 defeats and 9 wins this season is pretty good. At home, we're recording this before the Lille second leg, so we don't quite know how that's played out currently. But look, first and foremost, I'd say it screams draw, with West Ham drawing 3 of the last 4 in all competitions in 90 minutes. 3.5, 0-0, 1-1. Again, whenever you do a draw, look at the 2 most common score lines. That comes in at 5. But then I would look at the West Ham win here. I think that Villa aren't particularly good value for the win. I think West Ham really desperately need it. They've had a full week in City, whereas Villa have played against Lille in the Europa, which, you know, one hopes for their sake they've been able to get through. And I think West Ham are desperate, absolutely desperate. Playing well, plenty of fight, goals in the team. I think they can go there and win. At 4.16, this is your game that's worth a punt this weekend. And I mentioned Jarrod Bowen. Anytime for him at 3.5. You add that to a West Ham win. Spectacular money to be made on this game if you feel lucky.
Villa are vulnerable. I can see an upset West Ham 𝐿𝐴2. West Ham are winning, David. Aston Villa and both teams to score for 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀. Good game. This one very important one. And the last one is also very important one. Tottenham, Nottingham Forest, also both about to drop into the bottom 3. Perhaps the loser loses also the manager in the international break. Very likely. Igor Tudor got his first win against Tottenham, but absolutely pointless since they are out of the Champions League. Perhaps it's even better for them to fight to stay in the Premier League. Tom, Nottingham Forest also missed a big chance against Fulham to put some distance with the bottom 3. Vítor Pereira, no wins in the Premier League. Oh my God, this one screams draw, in my opinion, once again, or I don't know, to be honest.
Draw. Just draw. Do draw for every game this weekend. You're going to win half your bets. It does again scream draw this game. Yeah. I mean, I am still in mid to late March shocked by Tottenham. I remain shocked by Tottenham. To see them bottom of the home form table is jaw-dropping. At the risk of sounding like Jason Cundy, I do think there have been some encouraging signs in the last couple of games. I think it was commendable against Atleti in the second leg, I've got to say. I think obviously they won the game and lost the tie. I think against Liverpool, certainly in that last half an hour, they were the better team at Anfield and maybe could have won it, which again is pretty commendable. I think the injury list has been really significant, which has been an under-discussed element of Spurs this season, the amount of players being missing. And we're seeing Igor Tudor's going to stick to his guns. He wants to play 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1. That's what he wants to do. And so he's going to keep playing it and keep playing it and keep playing it. And he's either going to keep Spurs up or he's going to lose his job and they'll go back to something else with a different manager. I do think they've got the players to get out of this relegation battle. It's whether they've got the attitude and organisation to do so. I think that Richarlison is an old hand at navigating a team through this sort of situation, as he's done with Everton previously. So I think that if fit, he's the kind of guy that I definitely have in my team for a game like this. We'll find out what the manager does. I think defensively against Liverpool, there were some really good moments from 1 or 2 players. And I think it's been proved that Vicario is the #1 goalkeeper. I think there's no chance we'll see 𝐿𝐭𝐿𝐴 again in a Tottenham shirt, certainly this season. Oh, awful game this to bet on, I've got to say. It really, really could go either way. First goal going to be absolutely crucial. And part of that is because Nottingham Forest don't score many goals. The reason Nottingham Forest are in relegation trouble this season is because they do not score many goals. Tottenham this season have scored 40. Nottingham Forest have scored 28. West Ham has scored 36. Leeds has scored 37. The trouble is, Forest were playing like this last season, and they're Chris Wood scoring and scoring and scoring again. And they've not got Wood. They've not got Elanga. Hudson-Odoi is a middling player. He's a 1-in-3 player. That one is generally very good, but the other two he tends to go missing. And beyond 𝗵𝗵𝗄, no one is dragging this team up the field. 𝗛𝗵𝗄, 𝐜𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜, and Hutchinson, all of them. Just, they're fine. They're absolutely fine, but they're not great. And those great players from last season are not having great seasons. And indeed, Elanga's left the club. So that's the issue here. If Forest score and take the lead, I think they win this match. If Forest score the opening goal in this game, I don't think Spurs will score because Murillo, Milenkovic, Siles, the back line. I think Nico Williams is very good. Anderson in front of them, 𝗛𝗏𝗏. They will see this through and they'll win it 1-0. If Spurs score the opening goal, then I think all bets are off because Forest could score a couple of crackers like they did at City, a couple of jammy ones like they did against West Ham and find their way out of it. So screams draw at 3.5. Otherwise, look for the exact scoreline. Tight victory either way. Spurs by exactly 1, 4.33. Forest by exactly 1, 4.5. This is not going to be a goal fest. It's going to be nerves all the way. Spurs have not kept a clean sheet in their last 8 matches. I've already mentioned how tough it is for Forest to score. Winner of this game, I think, stays in the Premier League. That is how crucial it is. If you're looking for individuals, I picked him out earlier. Richarlison anytime at 2.88. Maybe he won't start the game, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him repeat his Goodison heroics from a few years ago and score the winner in this one, as he scored against Liverpool a couple of days ago. So I think it'll be 1-0 either way.
An under then is a good idea indeed. Under 2 goals, Scream Forest 1-0, but some other Spurs will survive. Another one, both teams to lose. This is a nervy one, crucial one. I think it's a super Sunday in the Premier League. Good to enjoy it indeed with 4 great games, plus the Madrid derby then in Spain. Okay, Tom, thank you guys for following us, for leaving your comments, for telling us how you feel in this Premier League show. Just let me remind you that we have our tipster competitions going on. We have a specific one for the Premier League. This is the monthly for March, and this is the Premier League one. A guy from Nigeria leading it. Oh, some oil in the African continent indeed this week. This is it. This is rivals as well. Okay, guys, let's go with Tom's safe bet.
I think every game's going to be a draw this weekend, so it wasn't easy to find a safe bet. But I hate Burnley, so I'll take Fulham to win at home against Burnley at 1.61.
And your 𝐿𝐴𝐴?
I'm going to go wild and pick a nice double that came out at really, really good odds. 2 away wins this weekend. Man United to win at Bournemouth, which I think is the more likely of the 2 scores I've picked. But I'm also putting West Ham in, which I know is a fool's errand. But I do think West Ham have to win a game like this. I would class this as a big game they need to win. Villa are wobbly, played in Europe in midweek. West Ham really focused, able to win it. Double for that is 7.98. I know that's wild.
Oh, really, really high. You know, Tom, I would bet on any Senegalese player to be sent off. If I were them, I would be so angry when I go into a football pitch that I would get a red card instantly, indeed. Well,
that's what got them into this mess. They need to keep cool, the Senegalese.
Yeah, but that's difficult. Tom, see you soon in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.